Hey, shalom, shalom to the house of Israel. Y'all already know what's going on. Today we are talking about captivity, right? We're talking about our people going into destruction, the death and the atrocities that took place on our people and why, right? We're discussing that right now. All right, Khan. This is the book of Genesis, chapter 15, starting at verse 12. It says, "And when the sun was going down, a deep sleep fell upon Abram, and lo, an horror of great darkness fell upon him. And he said unto Abram, Know of a surety that thy seed shall be a stranger in a land that is not theirs, and shall serve them, and they shall afflict them 400 years. All right here. Let's stop and dissect this, right? The deep sleep and the great darkness and horror, right? He fell into a deep sleep. He had like a great darkness and horror. He was shown something. I truly believe that Abram was shown the atrocities and the slavery and the death of his grandchildren and great grandchildren down the line. He was shown that thing of all that Israel will go into in the land of their captivity. One could see that in that aspect, right? And we know that because, well, he predicted to, and when I say he, the Lord, right, predicted to Abram that his children's children will be slaves, right? Servants in a land that is not theirs, and they will be afflicted 400 years. And then we see Israel going into captivity in Egypt, right? And the scripture says that they were there for 430 years. So did the Most High lie? Right? No. And so that's crazy, right? So verse 14, it says, "And also that nation whom they shall serve will I judge, and afterward they shall come out with great substance." All right. So the Egyptians were judged, right? Israelites went into Egypt. They became slaves. When it came time for Israel to come out of Egypt, these Egyptians were plagued, were destroyed, right? And then Israel came out with great substance. They were given the law. They were given the covenant. They were given the understanding of keeping the commandments, right? So there is no lie here, right? But let's move on. Exodus chapter 12 and verse 40, it says, "Now the sojourning of the children of Israel who dwelt in Egypt was 430 years." All right, so we see what just took place right now. Might I add, in Exodus chapter 12, this is Israel coming out of Egypt, right? This is the first actual Passover that we see dealing with Israel in the scriptures, right? Where, right, if we start at verse 1 to give you a little context of the chapter, right? So this is Exodus chapter 12 and verse 1. It says, "And the Lord spake unto Moses and Aaron in the land of Egypt, saying, This month shall be unto you the beginning of months. It shall be the first month of the year to you. Speak ye unto all the congregation of Israel, saying, In the 10th day of the month they shall take to them every man a lamb, according to the house of their father, a lamb for an house." All right, and it goes into giving them the instructions of how they should get the lamb and what to look out for, right? Verse 4, "And if the household be too little for the lamb, let him and his neighbor next unto his house take it according to the number of the souls. Every man according to his eating shall make your count for the lamb. Your lamb shall be without blemish, a male of the first year. Ye shall take it out from the sheep or from the goats." All right. And might I add, I'm gonna just add this in here as we move along. I'm just giving you the context of the beginning of the chapter, right? Verse 6, "And ye shall keep it until the 14th day." Now, mind you, they said you're supposed to grab the lamb on the 10th, right? On the 10th day of the first month of the year. The first month of the year is Abib. We see this in Leviticus 23, right? Verse 6, "And ye shall keep it until the 14th day of the same month, and the whole assembly of the congregation of Israel shall kill it in the evening." All right, so that's just giving you the context, right? So they have to do this and participate in this ceremony of Passover. They're supposed to put the blood on the doorposts, these things. This is them exiting out of Egypt, right? Once this is done and they put the blood on the doorposts, and then the Egyptians were plagued and killed and these things, right? And the Israelites were coming out of Egypt. The sea was parted and they went on their way, and the Egyptians that tried to follow them were destroyed. So that's just giving you that context of what we're talking about in Genesis 15, dealing with verse 12 down to verse 14, I believe, right? So I'm just giving you the context. All right, so this is a crazy situation right here, right? So this is the book of Judges, chapter 6. We're going to start at verse 1, right? "And the children of Israel did evil in the sight of the Lord, and the Lord delivered them into the hand of Midian 7 years." All right. So the Israelites served under the Midianites 7 years. Why? Because they did evil in the sight of the Lord. And you can read it for yourself where it says, "And the Lord delivered them into the hand of Midian 7 years." You see that? All right. So for those who are watching this, you're asking yourself, why did God allow this to happen? And the answer is plain on the tables. Israelites broke the covenant that they were given of the keeping of the law, statutes, and commandments, and did not keep up with their end of the bargain. And as a result, they were sent into captivity after captivity after captivity after captivity after captivity, right? On a consistent. Let's continue with this. Verse 2. "And the hand of Midian prevailed against Israel, and because of the Midianites, the children of Israel made them the dens which are in the mountains, and caves and strongholds." So these Israelites made caves like in the mountains. They tried to hide from Midian, right? That's how rough it was, right? They tried to hide from Midian. They were so afraid, they tried to get away from them, right? Verse 3. And so it was, when Israel had sown, that the Midianites came up, and the Amalekites, and the children of the east, even they came up against them. All right, so now the Israelites are basically on a run, and going to war with the Midianites and the Amalekites and the children of the east. And I want to be clear with this. These Amalekites are Edomites, right? These are the children of Amalek, which are Edomites, right? So Jacob has been going to war with Esau since they was in the womb together, right? We know that from the stories that we read in the scriptures, right? But now the Amalekites are going to war, siding with Midian, going to war with Israel, right? And this is all behind the children of Israel did evil in the sight of the Lord, and he's punishing them. Brothers is dying by the sword. Brothers is getting whipped, right? Men, women, and children dying. Men, women, and children going into captivity, right? Because you play with the Lord and he don't play that, right? Verse 4. And they encamped against them and destroyed the increase of the earth till thou come unto Gaza, and left no sustenance for Israel, neither sheep nor ox nor ass. So they took everything from the Israelites. They had no possession. They took everything. You know what I'm saying? And they encamped against them, meaning they it's like modern day. You sat in the car waiting for that brother to come outside, right? You was in wait for that. You know what I mean? And this is the type of stuff that's taking place, you know what I mean, in the chapter. And we see that. You know what I mean? I'm not saying that they had cars. I just use that as an example. Just an example, right? You sat waiting, right? They sat across from them waiting for them, right? They got to come out the mountain sometime, right? They got to come out of them caves one of these days. You know what I mean? They waited, right? Verse 5. For they came up with their cattle and their tents, and they came as grasshoppers for multitude, for both they and their camels were without number, and they entered into the land to destroy it. All right, you see this? This is crazy. This is what happened. And Israel was greatly impoverished. That word impoverished, to be without, to lack resources, right? Dealing with poor, that word poor, dealing with the word poverty, right? Which is really the root word, right, for impoverished, right? And Israel was greatly impoverished because of the Midianites, and the children of Israel cried unto the Lord. And it came to pass, when the children of Israel cried unto the Lord because of the Midianites, that the Lord sent a prophet unto the children of Israel, which said unto them, Thus saith the Lord God of Israel, I brought you up from Egypt, and brought you forth out of the house of bondage, and I delivered you. Okay? And I delivered you out of the hand of the Egyptians, and out of the hand of all that oppressed you, and drave them out from before you, and gave you their land. Right? So that goes back to our original conversation in Genesis, and then taking you to Exodus and all that. Right here in Judges, talking about that same thing we were just discussing, right? Verse 10. And I said unto you, I am the Lord your God. Fear not the gods of the Amorites, in whose land ye dwell. Right? But ye have not obeyed my voice. Right? So we're just going to stop it right there. He's explaining to you, all this took place. I'm the one that brought you out of Egypt. I'm the one that's been protecting you. And you obeyed not my voice. Right? Obeying my voice, simply, you have not kept my commandments. You have not kept up with your end of the bargain. You have not done what I told you to do. And, this is the result. This is what comes behind that, right? This is what comes with that. All right, so let's move on. All right, so the same nations that the Lord told Israel not to make covenants with in Deuteronomy chapter 7, we see them in the book of Judges chapter 3. And the Lord is, well, we'll read it, right? Judges chapter 3, starting at verse 1. Now these are the nations which the Lord left to prove Israel by them, even as many of Israel as had not known all the wars of Canaan. All right, so I got these Canaanites around you. I got these other nations around. Let me just see if you going to do what I told you to do, despite of who's around you, despite of what's going on, despite of who you're nearby and what they got. Let me see if you're going to do what I asked you to do, right? It's like a parent modern day. I already told you can't watch TV. Let me see if you're going to glance your eyes at the television because it's on in front of you, right? I told you can't watch TV. So regardless of whose TV is on in front of you, your eyes, you better close your eyes if you're standing in front of a TV and it's on, because I told you can't watch it, right? But watch this, right? Judges chapter 3, verse 1, right? It says, now these are the nations which the Lord left to prove Israel by them, even as many of Israel as had not known all the wars of Canaan, only that the generations of the children of Israel might know, to teach them war, at the least such as before knew nothing thereof. All right, so they're learning war. They didn't know, some of them didn't know war before, but they learned it as we go along behind being around these said Canaanites, right? Verse 3, namely 5 lords of the Philistines and all the Canaanites and the Sidonians and the Hivites that dwelt in Mount Lebanon, from Mount Baal-Hermon unto the entering in of Hamath. And they were to prove Israel by them, to know whether they would hearken unto the commandments of the Lord, which he commanded their fathers by the hand of Moses. And the children of Israel dwelt among the Canaanites, the Hittites, and Amorites, and Perizzites, and Hivites, and Jebusites. All right, these are the same nations than Deuteronomy 7 that he told them not to make covenants with and make marriages with, right? Verse 6, and they took their daughters to be their wives, and gave their daughters to their sons, and served their gods. You can't make this up. I'm just giving you different throughout this chapter. This documentary is called Everything is Racism, right? And this chapter is dealing with captivity, which is the accountability part of how we ended up in this condition current day, where every nation is against us from every which way, from every continent and every country. The accountability part is us breaking the laws of God and not keeping the commandments as Israelites. And this is what happened to us behind not keeping the commandments. So I'm just going to show you different parts in the Bible where Israelites were not keeping the commandments and what happened to them behind that. So this is what this is about, right? So I'm showing you how the Israelites went against what the Lord said, and he punished them, and it was always dealing with either death or captivity, right? We see this in the scriptures. Deuteronomy 7 told them clear not to make marriages with these Canaanites. And what did they do? They made marriages with these Canaanites, with these other nations. We see this, right? Verse 7, and the children of Israel did evil in the sight of the Lord, and forget the Lord their God, and serve Balaam and the groves. It just told you that they were serving the gods of these other nations, the Canaanites, the Hittites, the Amorites, the Perizzites, the Hivites, and the Jebusites. It just told you that they were serving their gods. Hey man, that is idolatry. that is spiritual adultery, because we are, as Israel, married to the Lord. We have a covenant with him. So when you forsake the covenant and go serve another god, hey, that's spiritual adultery, right? You literally played the harlot, right? And this is what Ezekiel 23 was talking about. How Israelites, Aholah and Aholibah, right, both played the harlot, right? Jerusalem and Samaria, right? Northern and Southern Kingdom, both played the harlot, right? So I'm giving y'all these examples, right? And we're going to continue, right? Where was we at? Verse 8. Therefore the anger of the Lord was hot against Israel, and he sold them into the hand of Chushan-Rishathaim, king of Mesopotamia. And the children of Israel served Chushan-Rishathaim 8 years. All right. So we see that. Went into another form of captivity. Right? For 8 years. Verse 9. And when the children of Israel cried unto the Lord raised up a deliverer to the children of Israel, who delivered them, even Othniel, the son of Kenaz, Caleb's younger brother. Right? And we heard of Caleb in the book of Joshua. Right? So we see that, right? Verse 10. And the Spirit of the Lord came upon him, and he judged Israel, and went out to war. And the Lord delivered Chushan-Rishathaim, king of Mesopotamia, into his hand. And his hand prevailed against Chushan-Rishathaim. And the land had rest 40 years. And Othniel, the son of Kenaz, died. All right. And the children of Israel did evil again in the sight of the Lord. And the Lord strengthened Eglon, the king of Moab, against Israel. All right. Now, Eglon was this fat Moabite dude who was a king. And the Lord strengthened his hand, and he ruled over Israel because of their disobedience. We see this in the chapter. We're reading it, right? Because they had done evil in the sight of the Lord. Verse 13. And he gathered unto him the children of Ammon and Amalek. There go them Edomites again, the children of Amalek, right? The children of Ammon are Lot's children, right? Abraham's nephew, right? Verse 13. And he gathered unto him the children of Ammon and Amalek, and went and smote Israel, and possessed the city of palm trees. So the children of Israel served Eglon, the king of Moab, 18 years. Okay, so they just came out of a situation where they were just serving Chushan-Rishathaim for 8 years. And then, you know, the brother Othniel handled the business, right? He destroyed Chushan-Rishathaim, went to war with them. And, you know, Israel's came out of that. And then they go right back into captivity, serving Eglon. Right? You see that? So, this is crazy, right? But when the children of Israel cried unto the Lord raised up a deliverer, Ehud. Right? So first we had the deliverer, Othniel. Right? Othniel took care of the business. He was the deliverer from the captivity that they were under with Chushan-Rishathaim, king of Mesopotamia. And they served 8 years there. So Othniel took care of that. And then he got them out of that. And then now we have Ehud. Watch this with Ehud, right? Verse 15. But when the children of Israel cried unto the Lord raised them up a deliverer, Ehud, the son of Jirah, a Benjamite, a man left-handed. And by him the children of Israel sent a present unto Eglon, the king of Moab. Now watch what this present is. Verse 16. But Ehud made him a dagger, which had 2 edges of a cubit length, And he did gird it under his raiment upon his right thigh. So you can almost picture this thing. He was left-handed. He had the dagger under his right thigh. It was like attached to his right thigh under his garment, right? You can see that. You can picture that, right? And he brought the present unto Eglon, king of Moab, and Eglon was a very fat man. All right, like I said earlier, right? Fat Moabite dude, right? And when he had made an end to offer the present, he sent away the people that bear the present. But he himself turned again from the quarries that were by Gilgal, and said, I have secret errand unto thee, O king, who said, keep silence. And all that stood by him went out from him. All right, so he had people that was with him, and he sent them away behind what Ehud said, I got a present for you, right, basically. And Ehud came unto him, and he was sitting in a summer parlor, which he had for himself alone. And Ehud said, I have a message from God unto thee. And he arose out of his seat. And Ehud put forth his left hand and took the dagger from his right thigh and thrust it into his belly. Right? And the haft also went in after the blade. And the fat closed upon the blade, so that he could not draw the dagger out of his belly. And the dirt came out. Then Ehud went forth through the porch and shut the doors of the parlor upon him and locked them. All right, so we see Israel again being delivered out of said captivity after going against the Lord. Israel prayed to the Father, and he sent them a deliverer. So you're going to see every time, at least most cases, where the Lord is being merciful and bringing Israelites out of their atrocities. You know what I mean? But all throughout the scriptures, we see rebellious Israel going against the commandments and then begging the Lord for mercy, asking them to be brought out of that thing. And a lot of times he brings them out of that situation. But they do serve their time before that happens, right? So let's move on. All right, so this is the book of Judges, chapter 4, starting at verse 1. And it says, And the children of Israel again did evil in the sight of the Lord when Ehud was dead. And the Lord sold them into the hand of Jabin, king of Canaan, that reigned in Hazor, the captain of whose host was Sisera, which dwelt in Harosheth of the Gentiles. And the children of Israel cried unto the Lord, for he had 900 chariots of iron, and 20 years he mightily oppressed the children of Israel. All right, so we see this once again. Every time Israel does evil in the sight of the Lord, we see this taking place. He's punishing them, he's sending them into captivity, and then they're crying and lamenting to him, asking to be brought out of that thing. All right, over and over again. We're seeing the captivity, we're seeing the atrocities, we're seeing the curses, we're seeing the problems, right? Speaking of curses. All right, so the situation is this, right? If we did not keep the commandments, as I said over and over again, these atrocities took place where our people went into slavery and captivity and these things, right? This was a promise, right? This was prophecy, right? And, we fell under these curses behind not keeping the commandments. So I'm only going to this chapter to answer some questions. Why did God allow slavery, right? Why is this happening to our people on a regular basis, right? Our people are filling up the prison systems, right? Fatherless homes, right? Our people being killed, shot and killed by police, captivity, slavery, all this stuff has happened. It's all because we as Israelites are cursed behind not keeping the commandments. The sooner you keep the commandments, the better it is for you, right? Life begins to get better, right? And the prayers of a righteous man availeth much. You understand? So your prayers are being ignored right now because you're wicked. You know what I mean? We're going to get to all that. We're going to explain all that. We're going to break all that down. You know what I mean? Y'all got some time. Sit down and enjoy with your brother, right? It's the book of Deuteronomy chapter 28, and I'm going to start at verse 1. It says, "And it shall come to pass, if thou shalt hearken diligently unto the voice of the Lord thy God, to observe and to do all his commandments, which I command thee this day, that the Lord thy God will set thee on high above all nations of the earth." He's talking to the Israelites. That's what he said. He's talking to the Israelites. If you keep the commandments, you'll be set on high above all the nations of the earth. Right? I'm going to shoot down to verse 15, and then we're going to go back up because I'm going to make a point. Verse 15. "But it shall come to pass, if thou wilt not hearken unto the voice of the Lord thy God, to observe, to do all his commandments and his statutes, which I command thee this day, that all these curses shall come upon thee and overtake thee." You see that? Y'all see that, right? So the promise came with the blessing. If you kept the commandments, you'll be blessed and put above high over all the nations of the earth. The Israelites are at the bottom of the barrel when it comes to everything. We're better than everybody in sports, music, you know what I mean? Like culture, fun stuff. Like, Israelites are the fastest runners. We make the best music. We're the best singers, right? Everybody wants to be with an Israelite. You know what I mean? Whether that's lawful sex or sexual immorality. You know what I mean? Everybody wants to go to Israel for all the fun stuff, all the cool stuff, right? But if we can be honest, financially, we're at the bottom. As far as resources, we don't have enough for people to have to come to us. We got to go to other nations for these said resources. You know what I mean? So let's continue reading, right? Going back up to verse 2 in chapter 28. "And all the blessings shall come upon thee and overtake thee, if thou shalt hearken unto the voice of the Lord thy God. Blessed shalt thou be in the city, and blessed shalt thou be in the field." Right? So you heard the song in church. We're blessed in the city. We're blessed in the field. How you blessed in the city and blessed in the field, and you're under the curses? Nobody matches these curses more than the so-called African Americans, more than the so-called blacks, Native Americans, right? Nobody matches these curses more than our people, right? Even the Hispanics. Nobody matches these curses more than our people, right? Nobody. So, verse 4, "Blessed shall be the fruit of thy body, and the fruit of thy ground, and the fruit of thy cattle, the increase of thy kind, and the flock of thy sheep." All right, so and it goes on and on about the blessings and this, that, and the third. But we see these blessings would happen if we were to keep the commandments. The Israelites did not keep the commandments, so now we have to go and read about the curses. I read to you verse 15. I'm going to read it again, right? Verse 15. But it shall come to pass, if thou wilt not hearken unto the voice of the Lord thy God, to observe, to do all his commandments and his statutes, which I command thee this day, that all these curses shall come upon thee and overtake thee. Cursed shalt thou be in the city, and cursed shalt thou be in the field. Cursed shall be thy basket and thy store. Right? Cursed shall be the fruit of thy body and the fruit of thy land, the increase of thy kind, and the flocks of thy sheep. Cursed shall thou be when thou comest in, and cursed shall thou be when thou goest out. Let's break this down. Cursed shall thou be in the city. Nobody is more cursed in the inner city than our people, the true Israelites, right? This does not match the Arabic man, the white man, the Chinese man, right? It does not match the ethnic Hamite. This curse does not match them. This is for our people. Everybody knows that. They just want to be in denial for the sake of salvation for everybody. Right? Jesus loves everybody. Right? That's not Bible. All right? I'm sorry. It's just not. Cursed shalt thou be in the city. Right? Who's being shot and killed in the streets? Who's being taken away from the homes? Who's filling up the prison systems? Our people. Now, of course, biblical sake, for the sake of the conversation, when these curses were given to the Israelites, this affected them in the land that they were living in. When they were living in Jerusalem, this affected them in that land. We're going to be honest and frank there. But what we have to take into account is that these curses followed Israel everywhere. Any city they went to, any country they went to, this affected them. These curses followed them. And we see these curses current day on our people. It doesn't matter where you are in this world. As an Israelite, you match these curses, especially if you're not keeping the commandments. And our people have been so deep in these curses for so long and haven't been keeping the commandments for so long that even when you come out of sin, out of iniquity, out of wrongdoing, out of transgression of the law, you are still dealing with some kind of, uncomfortable situation, right? Especially if you living in America or you living in one of those countries where they were like extremely hard on people that look like you and I, right? Verse 17, cursed shall be thy basket and thy store. So, it's not talking about at the time when this was written, when they were living in Jerusalem. It's not saying, oh, you own a store and now your store is cursed. It's talking about their possession, things that they own. They had seeds stored up for planting. They had baskets of fruits and vegetables and these things, and it was all cursed. Stuff got rotten. Stuff was eaten by pestilence. These things, right? That's the understanding. That's what took place, right? But now current day, because again, like I said, the curses follow you. So we don't have livestock. And I'm not saying that there aren't any planters in America or people that look like us, so-called blacks, right? Hispanics, Native Americans. But what I am saying is the blacks, more than any other, right? More than the Hispanics, I can say, at least, to be honest, if we just gonna be honest, the blacks do indeed match this curse as far as having a cursed store and basket more than who we also classify as Israelites as the Hispanics and Native Americans. And when I say that, is because, living in America, we see Hispanics successfully owning corner stores, right? All throughout America, right? We see them successfully owning corner stores, bodegas, these things. But black-owned businesses, they do not prosper as much as they should, right? I'm not saying that there aren't any black-owned businesses out there, but our people have not operated the way they should have. Yeah, so when it comes to black-owned businesses, you want to ask yourself, how many black-owned businesses do you know about? And I'm not saying that there aren't any black-owned businesses, right? But how many black-owned businesses were able to be prosperous for more than 5 years, 10 years, 20 years? Now, some of y'all going to say, oh, my grandfather owned a business for 50 years. Shout out to your grandfather, right? Right? Shout out to him. But your grandfather doesn't even make up 1% of the amount of so-called blacks or African Americans living in America whose businesses prosper or don't, right? We see a lot of barbershops in the community. They last for a long time. Shout out to them, right? But our businesses as a whole don't last longer than our fellow white counterparts. Arabics, right? Asians, Nobody takes a harder fall than we do. And these all have to do with the curses, right? So I hope I made, some sense with that, and that you were able to receive that and got that understanding. Yeah, so, and might I add, when it comes to these black-owned businesses, as far as like barbershops and nail salons, these barbershops last as long as they do, because our people support each other in that aspect, because nobody wants to get their hair cut by a white man or by an Asian man. You know what I'm saying? It's like, oh, now I can think about is when we was watching Don't Be a Menace, and he was like, take your ass down the street and let them mess your hair up. Like, what I'm saying? Like, Chinese guy around the corner charged me $6 for a messed up haircut. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's going to be terrible. Their hair texture is not like ours, so therefore they don't know how to cut our hair. And even when it comes to the sisters, you know what I'm saying? My rib made a beautiful point. The women, sometimes they work from home, you know what I mean? Or they do their traveling and stuff like that. Sisters always need their hair done. And who better to do your hair than someone who has your hair texture? You know what I mean? So those type of businesses are going to always be prosperous. You're going to see those up and down the avenue in your local city. So what y'all have to take into account is that when it comes to us as so-called black people, everything that we own current day, we had to fight for. There are a lot of whites that have been born in America, born into their families, and they didn't have to fight for too much of anything because things were passed down to them. Versus us, who had to fight for our rights when it comes to slavery, segregation, discrimination, Brown versus Board of Education, mass incarceration, these things. We had to fight against these things. We had to fight. We have Klan members literally bombing black homes, right? Police officers killing blacks, right? Burning crosses in front of our homes, right? We got young kids shooting up churches and shooting up schools. And when the police show up to the scene, they're not manhandling them and being aggressive with them, wrestling them down to the ground and killing them. That's not what's happening. We see our people getting killed behind standing in front of a store selling cigarettes. But when a white boy shoot up a church, he's getting taken to Burger King. Okay? So it's really weird when we see our people that look like you and I arguing and fighting against us being the Israelites, saying that we have false doctrine, when you can't explain these things. You really can't explain why God is allowing these things to happen to our people. And it's okay for these other nations to do what they're doing and they're not being charged with the crimes that they're actually committing. All right, but I want to read this, right? And this is the second one. It says systemic inequality and historical disadvantage. Historical discrimination, including redlining. That's very important. Historical discrimination, including redlining and denial of loans, has created a wealth gap that impacts the ability of black entrepreneurs to start and sustain businesses, says YouTube. Okay? This doesn't happen to nobody else. I want y'all to understand that. I want y'all to see this. This is only happening to the true children of Israel. We have biblical facts. We have statistics. We have history. And you're seeing it in your community. I don't see how you don't see that us as so-called black people match these curses when it comes to the Bible. When it comes to Deuteronomy 28, we're literally matching these curses. They may not be exactly how they were in Jerusalem, but they followed us, and now they are in a different form. Some of them. Others are the same as it says. Right? And this is the second bullet point we're reading right here. Right? Some studies suggest that black-owned businesses were more likely to be targeted, attacked, and even burned down during periods of social unrest, further hindering their recovery, says YouTube. You can't make this up. You cannot make this up. It's on Google for you to look it up for yourself. We don't see white-owned businesses being treated like this. We don't see Asian businesses being treated like this. Arabic businesses being treated. Japanese, we don't see it. We don't see it. We don't see it. This is for black-owned businesses. Huh? The COVID-19 pandemic. Right? The COVID-19 pandemic exacerbated these challenges, with black-owned businesses experiencing higher closure rates due to industry concentration and lack of access to federal support, says YouTube. Okay, so we'll see different reasons of why black-owned businesses do not prosper. We see this. So going back up, one of the first reasons, and they give you several reasons of why black-owned businesses don't prosper. Right? You'll get these reasons from Google. I have the Bible. Google also can fact check the scriptures by their own interpretation of why things are happening. And all these things match the curses. Right? So in Jerusalem, they had cursed stores and baskets, meaning all their seeds, all their fruits, all their vegetables, everything that they planted, anything that they owned, anything that they had, it all was rotten. Rather, it was stolen, they lost it, it got rotten, or it was eaten. Right? When it comes to the cursed store and basket. Current day, because we're not crazy planting and with fruits and vegetables and stuff like that, right? That was already said. Now we're trying to own stores and businesses, and guess what? It's not prospering. You know why? Because we're not keeping the commandments. So therefore we match these curses. Right? Access to capital and financial resources. Black-owned businesses often face challenges securing loans and financing with lower approval rates compared to white-owned businesses. That's what Google just said. You just read that with me. Right? They may have weaker ties with banks and limited access to investment opportunities. Right? You see that, says YouTube. This lack of capital can hinder their ability to hire staff, invest in marketing, and manage cash flow effectively. That's a cursed store and basket. That's a cursed store and basket. Literally, we can go through each curse and show you what it looks like current day. Right? All right, but let's move forward. We could have dealt with that Deuteronomy 28 and verse 17. I could literally make an entire hour video about that cursed store and basket alone. And we can go into how deep our people are in debt. You know what I mean? How much they're financially unstable. How much black-owned businesses don't prosper. How far behind we are when it comes to resources, right? Redlining, we're being denied access to loans and banks and these things. And it's just like, when you're getting denied and told no all around you, it puts you in a situation where you have no choice but to do crime so that they can make you a slave again by having you in prison. Because when you become state property, you literally don't have any rights anymore. Like you can't vote. You know what I mean? I don't want to vote anymore anyway. But there are things that you just can't do anymore, right? As an inmate, you're away from the outside world, and even when you come home, it's harder to find jobs, right? Harder to own things. You know what I mean? People don't trust you. But let's continue, right? So Deuteronomy 28 and verse 18, it says, "Cursed shall be the fruit of thy body, and the fruit of thy land, the increase of thy kind, and the flock of thy sheep." Now, why are our people having cursed bodies? We can look up statistics on this. Our people are the highest in rank when it comes to STDs, behind sexual immorality. Our people are the highest in rank when it comes to high blood pressure, sugar diabetes, cancer, right? Our people are the highest when it comes to not taking care of our bodies. I'm sorry, but black men and women in America are some of the fattest people in the world, right? We lack all motivation to get up and go to the gym and stay in shape, right? Let's just be honest here. All right, and our people are caught up in sin. They're doing wrong, right? So, not keeping dietary law is a major part of that as well. Okay, you cannot eat the pork. You can't have it. It's unlawful. You cannot eat the crab, shrimp, lobster, right? You cannot eat it. It's unlawful, right? You cannot eat the creeping things that are upon the ground. And it's sad because we covered this on a documentary of You Don't Have to Put Pork on Everything. And I'm just showing y'all this information because when it comes to cursed body, right? Cursed shall be the fruit of thy body, right? We gotta cover this, right? So, health risks of eating pork: contains harmful microorganisms, causes gastroenteritis, leads to bacterial and parasitic infections, increases risk of cancer and heart disease. And this is what y'all want to eat? This is what you want to eat? There are so many people, Christians, born and raised, thinking that the law is done away with. They have been lied to. They bit the lie. They are eating swine. And they got heart disease. They got problems with their heart. Because they have been eating things that contain pork for so long. And their body can't handle it. Right? To answer this question to y'all at home that's watching this, that think that I'm over exaggerating when it comes to these laws that need to be kept and the curses that come behind them from you not keeping them, despite of what the Bible says. That's what it says. And you're saying otherwise, right? If all the food, all the animals on planet Earth were blessed and, they cool to be received and all this, that, and the third, and it's no problem, then why are people dying from these diseases that come with these animals? Why is God allowing you to die from a disease from an animal that you say that he blessed? Because everybody can see that the pork was unlawful in the Torah. So if that's the case and you can agree with that, which it is, then you would have to take the position that when the Lord told Noah to separate the clean animals from the unclean, that the pig was the one separated by the 2, not by the 7. Because the clean animals were separated by the 7, not by the 2. Alright, so pay attention to Deuteronomy 28, because it's a crazy chapter. Alright? Let's shoot down to verse 20. It says, the Lord shall send upon thee cursing, vexation, and rebuke in all that thou settest thine hand unto for to do, until thou be destroyed, and until thou perish quickly, because of the wickedness of thy doings, whereby thou hast forsaken me. Okay? Cursings and everything that you want to do, right? Vexation, rebuke, right? Somebody's going to always say, that's not going to work. You can't do that. You shouldn't do that. There's not going to be enough support. You're not going to be able to prosper. And all that thou settest thine hand to do, right? Until thou be destroyed, right? Until the day you die, it's going to be like this because you're not keeping the commandments, right? Until the day you die, this is going to be the issue. Until thou perish quickly, right? So you're not even going to live long. You're going to die young. Until thou perish quickly, because of the wickedness of thy doings, where you forsake the Lord. You ain't keeping the commandments. You're doing your own thing. You don't even think we need to keep the commandments, right? Verse 21. The Lord shall make the pestilence cleave unto thee, until he have consumed thee from off the land whither thou goest to possess it. All right, so keep in mind, this was given to them in Jerusalem, right? So now that they off the land and they out of Jerusalem, does that mean that they not curse no more because they left Jerusalem? So now they go somewhere else and they ain't got to deal with the curses? No, that's not what the Bible's teaching. I promise you these curses followed those Israelites. I promise you they followed them, because we see that current day, thousands of years later. Now we're here in America in so-called black communities, and guess what? Who has the most roaches, mice, rats in the communities? So-called blacks. You go to white neighborhoods, you see grasshoppers. First Kings chapter 8, starting at verse 44, says, if thy people go out to battle against their enemy, whithersoever thou shalt send them, and shall pray unto the Lord toward the city which thou hast chosen, and toward the house that I have built for thy name, then hear thou in heaven their prayer and their supplication, and maintain their cause. Verse 46. If they sin against thee, for there is no man that sinneth not, and thou be angry with them, and deliver them to the enemy, so that they carry them away captives unto the land of the enemy, far or near. Right? So let's pause right there. This is why we're making this video, so that you can see it was the sins of Israel that caused them to go into captivity. The Lord delivered Israelites time and time again into the land in the hands of their enemies behind their sins. This is why Solomon is saying this. Verse 47. Yet if they shall bethink themselves in the land whither they were carried captives, and repent. So that, let's stop right there. Where it says bethink themselves, it's like they're going to remember who they were. Remember who they are. Remember their custom, culture, and heritage, and get back to that, so that they're keeping the law, statutes, and commandments, and they're not pissing the Lord off. So now they're getting back to the law. This is why it says, and yet it says, yet if they shall bethink themselves in the land whither they were carried captives, and repent, and make supplication unto thee in the land of them that carried them captives, saying, we have sinned and have done perversely, we have committed wickedness. All right, so now Solomon is asking the Lord, if they can say this, and they can admit their wrongs, and they can repent, and they can get back to the law, then verse 48, and so return unto thee with all their heart and with all their soul in the land of their enemies, which led them away captive, and pray unto thee toward their land. That means praying towards the east, because that's where Jerusalem is, right? Praying towards the east. Pray unto thee toward their land, right? In the land of their enemies, which led them away captive, and pray unto thee toward their land, which thou gavest unto their fathers, the city which thou hast chosen, and the house which I have built for thy name. Verse 49 is what he's asking the Lord to do. Then hear thou their prayer and their supplication in heaven, thy dwelling place, and maintain their cause, and forgive thy people that have sinned against thee, and all their transgressions wherein they have transgressed against thee, and give them compassion before them who carried them captive, that they may have compassion on them. So once the Lord begins to have compassion on Israel, behind them getting back to the law, repenting, submitting themselves to the Father, right? Remembering the wrong that they did, confessing their faults in these things, and the Lord began to have mercy on them behind that and compassion on them behind that, our oppressors now have to have that same said compassion. All right. But if Israel does not remember themselves and does not get back to the law, statutes, and commandments, then you stay in a condition that you are in, which is a living hell, right? Not talking about the lake of fire, but you're literally living in a living hell where there's problem after problem after problem after problem after problem, right? Over and over again, which goes into that Deuteronomy 28 verse 28 about the blindness and astonishment of heart, because there's always something going on, always a problem, always an issue, because you're not keeping the law, you're not considering the Lord. All right, so I just wanted to bring that out in 1 Kings chapter 8. We can move forward, right? Watch this. All right, so let's talk about what happens when you begin to go under the curses, right? The conditions and the side effects that take place when you begin to go under the curses, right? We have the book of Daniel chapter 1, verse 6 and verse 7, right? So this is the book of Daniel chapter 1, starting at verse 6. It says, "Now among these were the children of Judah, Daniel, Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah, unto whom the prince of the eunuchs gave names. For he gave unto Daniel the name of Belshazzar, and to Hananiah of Shadrach, and to Mishael of Meshach, and to Azariah of Abednego." Now, how many of us out there knew that Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego were not their real names, right? This is Babylonian captivity, right? And we know that Nebuchadnezzar was ruling Babylon at that time, right? The king and the Israelites were given over to his hand. But let's dig further. All right, so like when you shoot back up to verse 1 in the same chapter, right? It says, "In the 3rd year of the reign of Jehoiakim, king of Judah, came Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, unto Jerusalem and besieged it," right? "And the Lord gave Jehoiakim, king of Judah, into his hand with part of the vessels of the house of God, which he carried into the land of Shinar to the house of his God." So that's a lowercase g. So that's an idol, right? "And he brought the vessels into the treasure house of his God." All right. So right there, we see the Israelites going into Babylonian captivity, right? Jehoiakim was king of Judah at that time, and him and the Israelites went into said captivity. And we see brothers getting their names changed, right? Daniel name turned into Belshazzar, Hananiah of Shadrach, and to Mishael, Meshach, and Azariah, Abednego, right? And current day, living in America, we see a lot of so-called blacks, so-called African Americans, real Hebrew Israelites having the last name of their slave owner, right? From way back, you know what I mean? A good percentage of us in this country have the last name of a slave owner. So I just thought that was interesting, and we can align that. And this is what happens when you go under the curses, right? But let's move forward. So this is the book of 2 Kings, chapter 24, and I'm going to just start at verse 1, right? In his days, Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, came up, and Jehoiakim became his servant 3 years. Then he turned and rebelled against him. And the Lord sent against him bands of the Chaldees, and bands of the Syrians, and bands of the Moabites, and bands of the children of Ammon, and sent them against Judah to destroy it, according to the word of the Lord, which he spake by his servants, the prophets. All right, so we see what's going on. It's not looking good, right? Verse 3. Surely at the commandment of the Lord came this upon Judah, to remove them out of his sight for the sins of Manasseh, according to all that he did. All right, so there go the punishment to Israel again behind their sins. We are seeing this over and over again, and you're going to continue to see this in this situation that we are showing you, right? Verse 4. And also for the innocent blood that he shed, for he filled Jerusalem with innocent blood, which the Lord would not pardon. All right. Now the rest of the acts of Jehoiakim and all that he did, are they not written in the book of the Chronicles of the kings of Judah? So Jehoiakim slept with his fathers, and Jehoiakim, his son, reigned in his stead. All right, so we have Manasseh. They are Israelites, right? And they sinned against the Lord. They shed innocent blood and filled the city of Jerusalem with it. So this is why this is happening to Israel once again, right? Now, when it says, so Jehoiakim slept with his fathers, that's talking about he was buried, and he was buried with his fathers, right? So where his fathers were buried, that's where he was buried. That's all that means. It's not talking about anything else. We got to clarify that, right? But in these situations, over and over again, we see the sins of Israel and the wrongdoings of Israel, and as a result, them going into captivity. All right. So Jehoiakim served Nebuchadnezzar 3 years, and then he rebelled against him. And as a result, the Lord himself sent these different bands against Jehoiakim and the children of Israel, right? Bands of the Chaldees, the Assyrians, the Moabites, Ammon, right? And they went to destroy Judah, right? So we see this happening. I got some more for y'all. Let's look at it. Check it out. All right, so 2 Kings chapter 24, starting at verse 8. All right, we're still in the same chapter. I want to show y'all some more stuff, right? Watch this. Verse 8. Jehoiakim was 18 years old when he began to reign, and he reigned in Jerusalem 3 months. All right. And his mother's name was Nehushta, the daughter of Elnathan of Jerusalem. And he did that which was evil in the sight of the Lord, according to all that his father had done. At that time, the servants of Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, came up against Jerusalem, and the city was besieged. And Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, came against the city, and his servants did besiege it. And Jehoiakim, the king of Judah, went out to the king of Babylon, he and his mother and his servants and his princes and his officers. And the king of Babylon took him in the 8th year of his reign. All right. Verse 13. And he carried out thence all the treasures of the house of the Lord and the treasures of the king's house, and cut in pieces all the vessels of gold which Solomon king of Israel had made in the temple of the Lord, as the Lord had said. Okay. And he carried away all Jerusalem, and all the princes, and all the mighty men of valor, even 10,000 captives, and all the craftsmen and smiths. None remained save the poorest of the people of the land. So the only people that did not go into this said captivity under Nebuchadnezzar, because of the evil that Jehoiakim had done. Now Jehoiakim is dead, so this is his son Jehoiakim, right? Under the evil that he did in his reign, and the evil that he had Israel under, they went back into captivity under Nebuchadnezzar, right? Took Jehoiakim and all of the captives of Israel. Everybody but the poorest of Israel did not go into captivity. Everybody else went into captivity, right? Let's continue. Verse 15. And he carried away Jehoiakim to Babylon, and the king's mother and the king's wives and his officers and the mighty of the land, those carried he into captivity from Jerusalem to Babylon. Right? Now this is the point we get to. Something that I want you to see. Not only are we seeing the captivity, we seeing the conditions that come with this thing, right? Verse 16, and all the men of might, even 7,000, and craftsmen and smiths, 8,000, all that were strong and apt for war. Even them the king of Babylon brought captive to Babylon. Verse 17, this is the point, one of the points that I'm trying to get to again with this name changing. Watch this, verse 17. And the king of Babylon made Mattaniah his father's brother king in his stead, and changed his name to Zedekiah. Okay, so when you go under this captivity thing, all right, we're seeing these names being changed. Okay, we showed you Daniel chapter 1, Babylonian captivity. We're in 2 Kings 24, Babylonian captivity. Right, we have more to talk about this matter. All right, let's finish the chapter out. Zedekiah was 21 years old when he began to reign, and he reigned 11 years in Jerusalem. And his mother's name was Hamutal, the daughter of Jeremiah of Libnah. And he did that which was evil in the sight of the Lord, according to all that Jehoiakim had done. For through the anger of the Lord it came to pass in Jerusalem and Judah, until he had cast them out from his presence, that Zedekiah rebelled against the king of Babylon. You see? So, Israel over and over again, just being wicked, just being Sodom's children, just trying the Most High, playing in his face, like he ain't going, send them plagues upon you, like he ain't going to send you into captivity and have you begging and pleading and crying, lamenting and repenting, right? That's what happens. Okay, you go into captivity. If you're in captivity long enough, there are generations of Israelites that forget their customs, that forget their ways, that forget that they're Israelites, and then they have to be woken up and brought back into this understanding. So if you're in captivity long enough as well, you get your name changed, right? You are no longer the name of who, your parents named you, but you have the name that the slave owner gave you, right? So, that's plain, right? But let's move on, because we finished the chapter of 2 Kings 24. I did want to show y'all that. Let's check out some other stuff. This is the book of Isaiah, chapter 5 and verse 13. Therefore my people are gone into captivity, because they have no knowledge. and their honorable men are famished, and their multitude dried up with thirst. All right. So when it says they have no knowledge, it doesn't mean because they don't know anything at all. It means because they are not keeping the commandments of the Most High God. Right? My people are destroyed for a lack of knowledge. Let's get that. It's the book of Hosea chapter 4 and verse 6. My people are destroyed for lack of knowledge. Because thou hast rejected knowledge, I will also reject thee, that thou shalt be no priest to me. Seest thou hast forgotten the law of thy God, I will also forget thy children. See, that's what that's talking about. All right. Same thing Isaiah 5 and 13 is talking about. The Israelites went into captivity because they lacked knowledge. Right? Not because they didn't know 2 plus 2. Right? Not because they didn't know the matter and all that kind of stuff when it comes to science. Not because they didn't know their colors and numbers. No, it has everything to do with them not keeping the commandments. Right? Let me give you an example of the lack of knowledge that they participated in. Let's get that in Nehemiah 9 and 27. Watch this. So this is the book of Nehemiah chapter 9 and verse 26. Nevertheless, they were disobedient and rebelled against thee, and cast thy law behind their backs, and slew thy prophets, which testified against them to turn them to thee, and they wrought great provocations. All right. So we're going to see this. This is what this is talking about. This is what all this is talking about. Right. You can precept your Isaiah 5 and 13 with your Hosea 4 and 6. And giving an example of that is Nehemiah 9 and 26. Right. I got some more scriptures for you. Watch this. All right. So this is the book of Isaiah chapter 1, starting at verse 3. It says, the ox knoweth his owner, and the ass his master's crib. But Israel doeth not know, my people doeth not consider. All right. So when you see that not know, that goes into the lacking of knowledge. Right. And it says, my people doeth not consider. They don't even consider the Lord. They don't even consider his laws, statutes, and commandments. They don't even consider what he wants, how he feels, what he thinks. Right. How they should behave. They don't even consider. Verse 4, a sinful nation, a people laden with iniquity. Iniquity is sin, transgression of the law. Right? A sinful nation, a people laden with iniquity, a seed of evildoers, children that are corrupters. They have forsaken the Lord. They have provoked the Holy One of Israel unto anger. They are going away backward. All right? Going away backward. Backsliding. Right? We seeing this. Okay? So these scriptures are examples and reasons as to why the Lord feels the way he feels. Right? Let's get that sottish children. Watch this. All right. Jeremiah chapter 4 and verse 22. For my people is foolish. All right. When you're a fool, when someone is considered a fool, that means they are purposely being ignorant. Right? They lack understanding in areas. Right? For my people is foolish. They have not known me. There we go. You see that again? Right? There you go. When it comes to lacking knowledge, right? When it comes to being ignorant, right? A sinful nation, right? Putting the law behind their back. These are the results, right? For my people is foolish. They have not known me. They are sottish children, and they have none understanding. They are wise to do evil, but to do good they have no knowledge. Okay, so that's all this is talking about. Right? From Isaiah 5 and 13. Right? Isaiah 1, 3 and 4. Hosea 4 and 6. Right? This is what this is talking about. Nehemiah 9 and 26. Right? Our people lack knowledge. Our people lack understanding. In current day, our people got the curses on them. They really don't know that this stuff is in the Bible. Right? They really don't know. You'd be surprised how many grown adults older than me, born in years I wasn't even thought of, and I've had conversations with them, and they do not know that the Bible speaks against pork, crab, shrimp, and lobster, bringing trees in your house, decorating it with silver and gold. What day does Shabbat lands on? Right? If you're keeping a lunar Sabbath, it varies for you. Right? But for people that do the Friday night to Saturday night, or from Saturday morning, or what have you, right? It's one specific day of the week every week. People don't even know that. They're not even doing that. Right? They're taught that the law is done away with, and they operate as such. Okay? They're not connecting the Atlantic slave trade, the sub-Saharan slave trade, all the other slave trades prior to the transatlantic and sub-Saharan. They're not connecting that to the Hebrew Israelites and saying, oh, my people match these curses. They don't know that. They don't know the Deuteronomy has the blessings and the curses. The blessings that we were supposed to receive if we kept the commandments, and the curses that followed if we didn't. They don't know that. Like, they genuinely don't know that. You know why? Because they're not reading. And it's crazy because you can be reading the book and still not understand until it's time for you to wake up and come into this understanding. Because a lot of us as Christians read the whole Bible cover to cover. And we reading these verses, but we not relating them to us. Right? At least some of us aren't. So let's move on. It's the book of Jeremiah, chapter 52, verse 1. Zedekiah was 21 years old when he began to reign, and he reigned 11 years in Jerusalem. And his mother's name was Hamutal, the daughter of Jeremiah of Libnah. And he did that which was evil in the sight of the Lord, according to all that Jehoiakim had done. For through the anger of the Lord it came to pass in Jerusalem and Judah, till he had cast them out from his presence, that Zedekiah rebelled against the king of Babylon. And it came to pass in the 9th year of his reign, in the 10th month, and the 10th day of the month, that Nebuchadrezzar of Babylon came, he and all his army, against Jerusalem, and pitched against it, and built forts against it round about. So the city was besieged unto the 11th year of King Zedekiah. And in the 4th month, in the 9th day of the month, the famine was sore in the city, so that there was no bread for the people of the land. Alright, so we see this happening. Babylonian captivity, Israelites doing wickedness, and this is the result. This is the result. Israelites in wickedness, Babylonian captivity. They're going into famine. The land is besieged. They're dispersed from the Lord's presence. Are we seeing this? Mind you, this Zedekiah is the same Zedekiah in 2 Kings 24, whose name was Mattaniah. Right? We read that. Watch this. Right? When you in 2 Kings 24, and I'm going to just put it on the screen. Right? 2 Kings 24, starting at 17 on down. Right? And we see this. Now, Jeremiah 52 said that he reigned in the 120th year, right? 2 Kings 24 says in verse 18, Zedekiah was 21 years. It's the same years. He was 21 years old. Okay, so this is two witnesses. He was 21 years old. He reigned for 11 years in Jerusalem, and he did that which was evil in the sight of the Lord, according to all that Jehoiakim had done. This is the same dude, right? Mattaniah's name was changed to Zedekiah. Nebuchadnezzar gave him that name. And these are things that happen when you're in captivity. You know what I mean? You're the slave master gets to do whatever he wants with you, right? It's the same thing Jeremiah 52 was spilling, which lets you know, okay? Because what some of us didn't know, and I'm gonna say us, because even though I've known this, I'm including us in it because I haven't always known this, right? So when you read the book of Jeremiah, you go to chapter 1. The words of Jeremiah, the son of Hilkiah, of the priests that were in Anathoth in the land of Benjamin, to whom the word of the Lord came in the days of Josiah, the son of Ammon, king of Judah, in the 13th year of his reign. All right, let's stop there. Matter of fact, let's continue. Verse 3. It came also in the days of Jehoiakim, the son of Josiah, king of Judah, unto the end of the 11th year of Zedekiah, the son of Josiah, king of Judah, unto the carrying away of Jerusalem captive in the 5th month. Plain. That's plain. Right there in front of you. Plain. Alright. Now let's go to Zephaniah. Zephaniah chapter 1. The word of the Lord which came unto Zephaniah the son of Cushai, the son of Gedaliah, the son of Amariah, the son of Hizkiah, in the days of Josiah, the son of Ammon, king of Judah. Okay? So, around the time when Josiah was the king, is when these books were written. We just seen Zephaniah being written during the time of Josiah being king. We've seen Jeremiah being written during the time of Josiah being king. Okay? We are seeing this. Alright? Alright, I got some more for y'all, right? 2 Chronicles 36. Alright, let's get into it. Verse 1. Then the people of the land took Jehoahaz, the son of Josiah, and made him king in his father's stead in Jerusalem. Jehoahaz was 23 years old when he began to reign, and he reigned 3 months in Jerusalem. And the king of Egypt put him down at Jerusalem and condemned the land in 100 talents of silver and a talent of gold. And the king of Egypt made Eliakim, his brother, king over Judah and Jerusalem, and turned his name to Jehoiakim. Whoa. Hold up. Are we seeing this? The king of Egypt just made Eliakim and gave his name and turned his name to Jehoiakim. So when we get to 2 Kings 24, Jehoiakim, his name was changed too. Right? Under captivity. We seeing this. Right? Let's continue. And Necho took Jehoahaz, his brother, and carried him to Egypt. Jehoiakim was 25 years old when he began to reign, and he reigned 11 years in Jerusalem. All right. Now let's fact check something real quick. We want to make sure it's the same Jehoiakim. All right. So we're here in 2 Kings 23, right? Let's get to the point, right? Verse 31. Jehoahaz was 23 years old when he began to reign, and he reigned 3 months in Jerusalem. And his mother's name was Hamutal, the daughter of Jeremiah of Libnah. And he did that which was evil in the sight of the Lord, according to all that his father had done. And Pharaoh Necho put him in bands at Ribnah in the land of Hamath, that he might not reign in Jerusalem, and put the land to a tribute of 100 talents of silver and a talent of gold. All right. And Pharaoh Necho made Eliakim, the son of Josiah, king in the room of Josiah his father, and turned his name to Jehoiakim, and took Jehoahaz away, and he came to Egypt and died there. All right. So that's the same one. That's the same one. That's the same Jehoiakim. All right. We're seeing this. Let's finish the chapter out in chapter 23 of 2 Kings. Then we're going to go back to 2 Chronicles 36, right? Verse 35. And Jehoiakim gave the silver and the gold to Pharaoh. All right. Give it up. Right? Gave it all up. But he taxed the land to give the money according to the commandment of Pharaoh. He exacted the silver and the gold of the people of the land, of everyone according to his taxation, to give it unto Pharaoh Necho. Jehoiakim was 25 years old when he began to reign. And he reigned 11 years in Jerusalem. And his mother's name was Zebudah, the daughter of Pedaiah of Rumah. All right. Verse 37. Last verse. And he did that which was evil in the sight of the Lord, according to all that his father had done. All right. So then, you go over to chapter 24, and we see how he was under Nebuchadnezzar, and he tried to buck up. He was under Nebuchadnezzar, and he tried to rebel against him. And then we see all the bands of the Chaldees and the Syrians and the Moabites, the Ammonites, and all those guys came after him. The Lord didn't pardon the sins of Manasseh because of the innocent blood that they shed in Jerusalem. All that. All right. Going back to 2 Chronicles 36, right? So this is the same Jehoiakim. Wanted to show y'all that because we see three witnesses here. Probably there's more than that, actually. All right, we got 2 Kings 23, we got 2 Kings 24, Jeremiah 52, 2 Chronicles 36. All right, about a good 4 witnesses on this thing, right? Jehoiakim, which his name was Eliakim, right? Jehoiakim was 25 years old when he began to reign, and he reigned 11 years in Jerusalem, and he did that which was evil in the sight of the Lord, his God. Against him came up Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, and bound him in fetters to carry him to Babylon. Nebuchadnezzar also carried of the vessels of the house of the Lord to Babylon, and put them in his temple at Babylon. Now the rest of the acts of Jehoiakim and his abominations which he did, and that which was found in him, behold, they are written in the book of the kings of Israel and Judah. And Jehoiakim his son reigned in his stead. All right, so we seeing this, man. We seeing this. Babylonian captivity is the topic. Nebuchadnezzar also carried of the vessels of the house of the Lord to Babylon, and put them in his temple at Babylon. All right, we read verse 8 as well. Let me get verse 9. Jehoiakim's son, was 8 years old when he began to reign, and he reigned 3 months and 10 days in Jerusalem. And he did that which was evil in the sight of the Lord. And when the year was expired, the king Nebuchadnezzar sent and brought him to Babylon with the goodly vessels of the house of the Lord, and made Zedekiah his brother king over Judah and Jerusalem. All right, so this is the same Zedekiah whose name was Mattaniah in 2 Kings 24. Indeed, it's the same one, right? Same Zedekiah in Jeremiah 52, same one, right? Zedekiah was 120 years old when he began to reign, and reigned 11 years in Jerusalem. All right. And he did that which was evil in the sight of the Lord his God, and humbled not himself before Jeremiah the prophet, speaking from the mouth of the Lord. He refused to, this Zedekiah refused to humble himself, right, before Jeremiah the prophet, right, who spoke, the words of the Lord. Okay. So that's your second witness of letting you know that the book of Jeremiah and Zephaniah was also written. Like the book of 2 Kings, despite of how far in distance it is in the Bible, these books are not written thousands of years apart from each other. These books were all written around the same time, right? We showed y'all that earlier. When Josiah was king, Jeremiah and Zephaniah, you know what I mean? And these accounts of 2 Kings were written at the same time as well, right? Where we at? Verse 12, he did that which was evil in the sight of the Lord, and humbled not himself before Jeremiah the prophet, speaking from the mouth of the Lord. Verse 13, and he also rebelled against King Nebuchadnezzar, who had made him swear by God, but he stiffed his neck and hardened his heart from turning unto the Lord God of Israel. Man. All right. So as a result, we see what's happening. Moreover, all the chief of the priests and the people transgressed very much after all the abominations of the heathen, and polluted the house of the Lord, which he had hallowed in Jerusalem. And the Lord God of their fathers sent to them by his messengers, rising up betimes and sending, because he had compassion on his people and on his dwelling place. But they mocked the messengers of God, and despised his words, and misused his prophets, until the wrath of the Lord arose against his people, till there was no remedy. All right, so here we go. And remember, this is the accountability part. All right, so we're seeing all this. I'm giving you different accounts. We're seeing all this. We see the Lord having mercy, and we see Israelites taking advantage. Right? We're seeing this. Okay. All right, so this is the book of Jeremiah, chapter 25, starting at verse 1. It says, the word that came to Jeremiah concerning all the people of Judah in the 4th year of Jehoiakim, the son of Josiah, king of Judah. That was the first year of Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, the which Jeremiah the prophet spake unto all the people of Judah, and to all the inhabitants of Jerusalem, saying, from the 13th year of Josiah the son of Ammon, king of Judah, even unto this day, that is the 23rd year, the word of the Lord have come unto me, and I have spoken unto you, rising early and speaking, but ye have not hearkened. And the Lord have sent unto you all his servants, the prophets, rising early and sending them. But ye have not hearkened, nor inclined your ear to hear. They said, turn ye again now everyone from his evil way, and from the evil of your doings, and dwell in the land that the Lord have given unto you and to your fathers forever and ever. And go not after other gods to serve them and to worship them, and provoke me not to anger with the works of your hands. Right there, when it says provoke me not with the works of your hands, that's just simply talking about these people actually made gods with the silver, with the gold, with the copper that they were working with, and they made gods out of these. That's the work of man's hands, right? Silver, gold, wood, these things. All right. Verse 7. Yet ye have not hearkened unto me, saith the Lord, that ye might provoke me to anger with the works of your hands to your own hurt. Therefore, thus saith the Lord of hosts, because ye have not heard my words, behold, I will send and take all the families of the north, saith the Lord, and Nebuchadnezzar the king of Babylon, my servant, and will bring them against this land, and against the inhabitants thereof, and against all these nations round about, and will utterly destroy them, and make them an astonishment, and an hissing, and perpetual desolation. Alright, so we're seeing what's going on. Israelites in idolatry, spiritual adultery. Okay? And they going straight into captivity. Nebuchadnezzar is going to rise up and go at these people. Right? So this is the backstory, right? And we're seeing this. Moreover, verse 10. Moreover, I will take from them the voice of mirth, and the voice of gladness, the voice of the bridegroom, and the voice of the bride, the sound of the millstones, and the light of the candle. And this whole land shall be a desolation and an astonishment, and these nations shall serve the king of Babylon 70 years. Okay? And the Lord did not lie, because Israel was in Babylon 70 years. Alright? Verse 12. And it shall come to pass, when 70 years are accomplished, that I will punish the king of Babylon and that nation, saith the Lord, for their iniquity, and the land of the Chaldeans, and will make it perpetual desolations.